conditioned. And they are conditioned because we are simply not believing that we can expand these qualities towards all sentient beings. So because we have this limitation, these aspirational prayers, they help us to not only believe, but to put them into practice and to make us see that we can develop all of those qualities of equanimity, seeing everybody exactly the same as us in wanting happiness and not suffering. Developing even more our love and kindness, our compassion, and our joy. So with that in mind, we can start on page 35, or you can just see it on the screen due to the kindness of Nana, who's helping to share these prayers. So we can think, may all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from attachment for friends and hatred for enemies. May all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all sentient beings be inseparable from the happiness that is free from suffering. And now we're going to take refuge. And taking refuge, especially for those that call themselves Buddhist, means that we don't look for the answers of our happiness and the answers of our suffering outside of ourselves. But we take refuge in the three jewels, these three objects that can help us immediately and powerfully to really look inside of ourselves for the answer of our own happiness and how to be free from suffering. So we look to the Buddha as an inspiration and as a reminder of our own potential to free ourselves completely of all the suffering and the causes of it. And our potential to be able to completely perfect our qualities so we can be of use in whatever way needed to help sentient beings. And we take refuge in the Dharma, which is not only the teachings of the Buddha, but is actually the potential we have within ourselves. So we take refuge in this, in our own pure nature, our nature that is immaculate, not stained by anything. And of course, we need helpers, we need support because we are social beings. So we take refuge in the Sangha, those that before us have walked the path and have gone through a lot of hardships. So we could connect, be inspired, learn from their examples. So for those that are more advanced, they can visualize your teacher in front of you in the aspect of Buddha Shakyamuni, surrounded by all the lineage masters. And all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, Dakas, Dakinis, and Dharma protectors, forming our merit field. And they look at us with this beautiful gaze of non-judgment and pure love and kindness. And surrounding us all sentient beings, wanting to find happiness, but being lost. So we want to help them. So we do these prayers like as we are helping them to connect with these pure causes and conditions so they can achieve what they want. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. All right. Now that we created an amazing, very powerful motivation, we created these incredible conditions of being together. Today we're going to talk about the third of the three principal aspects of the path. So due to the kindness of Don, who really is an incredible student, very dedicated. He was reading a book of the three principal aspects of the path, and he said it would be so nice if we could, like, talk about them. And I said, well, I don't know much, I don't know anything, so I can do a little bit of blah 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 about them. So the past three Sundays we've been talking about them, and then we talked about the first one, which is renunciation. And we talked about, if you remember, we discussed about what renunciation really means. And we talked that renunciation is not being, you know, shaving your head, giving up your clothes, giving up your phones, giving up your house, giving up your belongings. That's not called renunciation. That can become renunciation. But renunciation is a mental attitude. It's something that is actually an inner attitude, not an external appearance, but is a mind that truly, truly, completely renounces seeing the wrong views of seeing samsara, or seeing everything that we see as the causes for temporary pleasures, believing that that is what is going to bring us ultimate happiness. So it's like that. It's kind of like a correct view in some ways. It helps us to really let it go of ideas, wrong ideas that we have. So that it would be already amazing, because these would give us already a lot of, if you think, well, let's say happiness. We would be free from so much suffering, and we will be kind of like happier if we could renounce that clinging wrong mind that things exist in a certain way that they don't. But then it would be very good that if we are there just, by the beach, relaxing, not suffering, and having everything we want, and we go around and we see everybody suffering. So that is not very nice, right? I always say that it's very good that we are social beings, as His Holiness says, so we need to do something about others if we think about it. Because everything that we like, all the chocolate, all the pizza, all of the ice cream that we love in this world, comes due to the kindness of others. We cannot stay our entire day. Can you imagine everything that we like? We would need to produce ourselves. So we need to produce all the posts on Instagram, all of the content on Netflix. We need to produce all of the good food. We need to produce all of the healthy, the nice warm things that we wear. We need to produce air conditioning. We need to produce every. Can you imagine? Impossible. Impossible for us to be actually so nice and to be so kind of like comfortable. So all of these very temporary pleasures that we enjoy, they are all due to the kindness of others. So then the second aspect of the three principal aspects of the path, which is the text that, as I said last times, Lama Tsongkhapa did. Lama Tsongkhapa is this super cool dude. If you have the possibility of really reading his biography, he was just amazing, you know? Because many people think that Lama Tsongkhapa was very scholar, and he was. He was a very brilliant scholar, you know? He wrote incredible texts. He wrote like 18 big big text talking about and debating all the different points of the most advanced philosophy, but at the same time he did like more than 1 million prostrations. He did a lot of mandala offerings. He went walking and doing retreats here and there. So he was like this perfect combination of an ascetic practitioner of doing retreat and like really strong practitioner with the intellect, right? So that is very inspiring, because sometimes we just hear a lot of things and we read a lot of books, and then everything in the book looks very nice, but actually what we cannot do it in daily lives. So he was a perfect mix. So he was the one who wrote this text of the three principal aspects of the path, and he talked about, okay, yes, but if we don't think about bodhicitta, if we don't think about the mind of enlightenment, if we only think about our own freedom from suffering, then we cannot really call ourselves a Buddha, right? Because the mind of enlightenment, the mind that actually looks for that, I am interdependent of all of these people, so I need to help them to find happiness as well, right? Isn't that amazing that we can actually develop that mind that starts to see the interdependence, say, oh, if this person is happy, if this person is happy, if this person is happy, then I will also receive more happiness from them. But right now, I don't have the tools to do that. So I need to develop myself. I need to achieve a state of enlightenment so I can help them to achieve the same enlightened state. So that is the mind of bodhicitta. Remember we talked last Sunday? We talked about that? Yeah? Good. I was discussing with someone recently about, it's a little bit of what now they are calling, compassionate leadership. In companies, if people start to understand that if they treat their employees better and they are all happy, that means that the bosses have less work and they actually become better employees. It's shocking to me that we had to wait so many thousands of years to understand that, but that's what it is. We don't understand that if we make people happy, we receive more than that. We receive the benefits of that. But that's okay. We go slowly, we're gonna get there. So, but then the third aspect of the path, it's actually the most important, and actually the reason why the Buddha, the original Buddha, more than 2,500 years ago, actually thought. He really, or we say that he thought 84,000 of teachings. So 84,000 of teachings is a lot of things, right? So it's a lot of teachings because he had to give teachings to each person, or to different people a different teaching, right? And that already says a lot, because he could understand that we all have different ways of behaving, ways of working, different habits, right? Not everybody. Is Jack around, Rebecca? No?
He's not here today.
Okay.
He had to go to a funeral.
So I'm not gonna make fun of his obsession with raisins. Okay, so but like if you think about, we all have different obsessions. So we all have different, like, desires and needs and wishes and all of that. So the Buddha said, okay, so if I just teach in one way, people are not gonna understand. So I need to be very smart and very open-minded and be very free in the way that I'm gonna teach, so it can actually touch each person differently, right? So that is very special. So then he decided to teach about reality, and that is a huge word, right? Reality. Why? I always say to people, people think about, when we talk about, understanding the right view of how things exist, understanding reality, or what we call ultimate reality, people ask, but why do we need to learn about that? Why do we need to learn about wisdom, or about this big word in Tibetan Buddhism we use, emptiness? Why we need to talk about emptiness? Well, we need to understand, and we need to start realizing that the way we perceive things right now, they are not the way they truly exist. And that is what the Buddha wanted to help us with. He wanted us to actually be able to understand that the way we perceive, the way we see, the way we hear, the way we smell, the way we taste, the way we touch, all of these, and the way we think, the way we feel, the way we have emotions, the way we experience all of these, they are not in accordance with the way that they truly are. So far, so good. Are we there? Are we communicating? Okay, good. Because these teachings needs to be, I need to be very careful, because we can really get lost in understanding emptiness. And of course, I have no experience, so I need to also check what I can say. But it's very important that we understand why we need to understand emptiness. And the reason why we need to understand this right view is that because we perceive things in a wrong way, in the way that they don't exist truly, this misperception, this mistaken way, this wrong way creates a reality, or an idea of a reality for us, that makes us suffer. Right? Is this misconception and believing in this misconception as the reality, this wrong view, is actually what is the basis, the beginning, the root of our suffering. So that with that, everything becomes easier. Now we already talked about it. Now we already know. So we understand that actually is the wrong view. But if it is the wrong view, what is that we are actually doing? Because we need to understand that when we are talking about understanding the wrong view, the Tibetans are very smart in some ways, But the Buddha, what he did is so special, because he did, and especially in the three principal aspects of the path, the text, did they got access to the text, Rebecca?
Oh, yes.
It's online? Do you know if it is online?
I think Anthony, where's Anthony? Yeah, Jack put it up, didn't he? On the website? I was out of pocket. Oh, right. I think Jack put it on there. I'm not sure.
It's okay. If not, then it's good. Next year when I come, we do it properly. We do it with the text. We print them, and then we can kind of because me bad monk, so I don't do anything. So but next time I come, we use the text, the right text. But in the text, is very special, because the Buddha already said, and all like Lama Tsongkhapa and all the big philosophers, they also made it very clear that it's not only, when we are talking about reality, we are not only talking about emptiness, about the right view. We are talking about dependent arising as well. Why? Because emptiness helps us to understand how do things do not exist, right? And dependent arising help us to understand how do things exist. That is very special. Because we need to understand then how they do not exist. Because for us right now, the way things perceive and the way we experience the life is just our reality. So first, we need to understand how our reality, it's not really the truth. So that's why it's very hard. Think about it. Let's make an exercise. We all here are listening to my broken English. If I say to you, stop understanding English right now, it's impossible because it's just our reality, right? We cannot undo it, something just like that. It's very ingrained in our minds because we habituated our minds to do it, and therefore it became just part of who we are. So in some ways, if we think about it, these wrong views, they are just the way we perceive things. And then how it is the way we perceive things, how we think that things exist. It's very easy. Just look at ourselves, look at our lives. Any one of you here today woke up and thought, maybe I'm going to die today. Maybe I'm not going to be able to actually finish this day. Maybe I'm not going to be able to either get to the center or even be able to open my computer, and I can die in between this and that. Did we? Did anyone? No? No? Okay. Very good. That means that we are not see, because if you say yes, then I would have to say, okay, so then I need to think about something else. But if you think about it, Vicky, don't say Vicky. Vicky, don't raise your hand, okay? So if you think about it, we haven't done that. Why? Well, it's just because of habit, not because we don't know these things, right? Because if we really start to analyze, it is the truth that we can die at any moment, right? So if we start to think about it, the way we actually lived our day until now was without this awareness, or without putting into our day-to-day, in putting in the way that we are deciding how we're going to live our lives, with this idea that we can die. But the moment we start to actually discuss here right now, saying, oh, it's true, everybody that we know that is, that have been in our lives, they are either dead, or in the next 100 years they're going to be dead. So we start to understand and analyze that, oh, ultimately death is what is going to happen to us. Not only death is going to happen to us, but we have no control on when we're going to die. We all know, or we all heard about situations that people just, either woke up and died, or they woke up, they died on their sleep, or maybe something happened, some kind of like crazy accident, and then they went somewhere and then they just died. This can happen to all of us. So that means that whatever we are living our lives, we are not living with that awareness, with that true understanding of how things exist, of how things are. Make sense so far? Yeah? Because it's very important for us to understand first, if we are talking about a right view, first we need to understand the wrong view. And we need to understand how this wrong view creates suffering. Because we didn't think about that we could die, then if we actually die, or someone else in our lives, like I don't know if Luciana is there, but Luciana was always talking about the pet. If maybe our pet, we come back home and our pet is dead, then we become very frustrated. We become very sad. But that is just natural cause and effect. If we are alive, we're going to die. So then we start to understand, wow, what the Buddha was trying to bring to us, it was live your life in accordance with reality. Because the more we don't live our lives in accordance with reality, we suffer. Because we don't want to die, we don't want our family members to die, we don't want our pet to die, but they will die. So because we don't want, this not wanting and reality, they clash. And in this clash, reality always wins. Our way of understanding is that this mind that is trying to fight reality, that is our That is the problem. And that is the only thing that we actually can control fully. Then we can actually start to understand that the problem is in our way of perceiving things, in our way of seeing things. So that is why the Buddha taught emptiness and dependent arising, because he wanted us to free ourselves of these wrong views and be in peace, in harmony with reality. Make sense? Yes? Okay, good. So with this way, we can start understanding that our lives are very funny, because not only we conceptualize, we perceive things in the wrong way, but especially we see ourselves in the wrong way. The I, the self, the ego. Lama Yeshe used to say something that I really like. He used to say, the ego is the mind that misunderstands the reality or the nature of the I, of the self. That is very, very useful to understand, because normally the ego, I normally I have difficulties with that word, because ego, sometimes we have a very strong conceptual idea of the ego in the Western psychology way, right? So it's a little bit different, because the ego is not only, kind of like the emotional aspects, but the ego is actually our misunderstanding. It's what makes us misunderstand, it's what is created, let's say like that, because of our misunderstanding, because of our misperception of how we exist. So the ego arises. And the ego, because it is a kind of like a wrong view of how we exist, that means that the moment it exists, it thinks it's the most precious, the most special thing in the entire world. And therefore, it cherishes everything that it likes and have a lot of aversion to everything that it dislikes. So that is what we call the self-cherishing attitude, right? So that is very important for us to understand, because this is the basis of the Buddhist path. We are tackling, we are trying to go against, and we are trying to really, how can I say, how, like, to show, or to, what do we say when we are kind of like, when we catch someone, we are catching someone in their lies, right? So we are trying to catch these two minds. The mind that sees things in a wrong way, which is what we call the wrong view, and we are trying to catch the self-cherishing. So how do we try to catch the self-cherishing? Well, of course, with analysis, with understanding how our mind works, but especially by using the mind of bodhicitta, the mind of compassion, of thinking about others. Because the self-cherishing mind is a very self-centered, self-absorbed type of mind. So the mind of, bodhicitta, of compassion, of love and kindness, it goes against this. But that is not enough. We need then the other mind that is going to go into the root of the problem, the root of this wrong view of how we exist. So that is only the right view of emptiness and dependent arising. So we need to understand that it is because we don't understand how we work, how we function, how the way we experience, the way we exist, that we suffer. So that is why the wisdom aspect of the path is crucial, is the base of everything. We need to have wisdom. Just self-cherishing, just fighting the self-cherishing, just compassion and bodhicitta is not enough. So it's very important that the Buddha's path is like everything leads us to emptiness, to understanding that. So that's what we are trying to do. And emptiness means things are empty of what? Well, they are empty of all of these mistaken ways that we perceive ourselves and everything else. It's a very nice way Lama Yeshe and Lama Zopa used to say that is like, these wrong views, they actually cover and they project qualities, they project aspects for things that are not there, qualities that are not in the object. So we project all of these ideas, all of these things that don't exist at all on the object. They only exist in our minds. However, we don't see it like this. We think it is coming from the object, and because it's coming from the object, is the object's fault, and the object needs to change, and the object needs to be destroyed, or the object needs to be completely in, like, especially if it is, we are putting qualities that are good qualities. Therefore, we need to have the objects really close to us all the time so we never lose those qualities. You understand? That's what we do. That's how crazy our minds are. That's how cheating, Rinpoche used to say. They are cheating. The wrong way is cheating us. So we go around our lives doing that, looking for ways to have more and more and to be more and more attached to things that we actually like, that this self-cherishing thinks it likes, right? And becoming averting or really pushing away things that it feels that it doesn't like, that is going to harm it. So that's why we need to investigate if this is true, and we need to first try to investigate, the first way that we start meditating or looking for the emptiness is, when we're talking about emptiness, is trying to look for the object that we're going to try to say that is wrong. We call the object of negation. What we are trying to negate, these illusions or these projections or these fantasies that we create, that our minds create. It's very complex if you think about it, but it's very simple. Our minds are projecting illusions into objects which are making us suffer. And our own mind needs to undo this process so we can actually be free from these wrong views and achieve happiness. Isn't that incredible what the mind can do? If you think about it, that is when I really start to understand when we talk about the nature of the mind, that is the real dharma, that is the real jewel. Because the only thing that we have in our existence is this purity of our own mind. Is that mind completely pure from these projections? That is what we want. That is what we want to achieve. That is what we want to experience. Because then there's no more suffering. There's no more projection. There's no more expectations. There's no more wrong views. Therefore, there's no more suffering. Wow. I think we all want that, right? I think we all would like to have that. So that's why we need to start looking for these projections in our daily lives. We need to start realizing that that's what we're doing, right? First, we need to be aware of the problem. So we need to actually start understanding and looking and observing. And we have many different ways. Of course, awareness, being aware of what is happening in our minds is very important. But especially in the meditations, we try to bring about, strong emotions. So when we have strong emotions, strong experiences in our daily lives, whatever they are, either we label them good or bad, these strong emotions, they are the perfect moment for us to check how we perceive ourselves. And the way we can check is that first we can just try to find that feeling of existing. For example, someone scares you, or you're driving and you almost, like how do you say, crash into someone, right? Or, you got that amazing news about you got like you won the lottery, you know? Something like that. So, or the person that loves you sends a message saying, I love you, my love, and you're the most important person in my life. And so those moments you can just try to check, where is that emotion happening? And because we are all different, we all gonna have different ways of experiencing that, right? Lama Yeshe used to say, it's how we start to then, like meditating on emptiness, we start to actually observe how we work. We start to check. Oh, for me, it's a tightness in the heart when I am actually angry, or I'm, kind of like anxious about something, or something you can try to, experience. When I'm happy, I can feel almost like, thinking this very strong happiness, which is actually just me having my object of attachment the way I want, with the ice cream and the chocolate fudge and all of that, and then you're like, yes, this is what I want. So that experience. And then if we start to actually look for that super, like almost superimposed I that is feeling and experiencing that, where is it? If we try to look into our body, where is it? Where is that I that is experiencing it? If we chop our bodies in small little pieces, which of these pieces will be this I that is experiencing all of these emotions? Which one you think is going to be? Anyone? Any idea? I can't hear you. What did you say?
None. Nenhuma.
But that is the perfect meditation on emptiness. When we don't find it, that is exactly what we want. We want to not find the I because it doesn't exist in this way. It doesn't exist a single unitary, concrete, permanent thing. It doesn't exist. So even if we chop ourselves from hair to tail, even though I don't have so much hair, but we can have it. So if we do that, we are not going to be able to pinpoint one little piece and say, this is me. This is Kalden. So because we cannot find this inherently concrete Kalden, then we say it is empty of inherent, of concrete, of permanent existence. That's why we use the word emptiness. Make sense now? Because it is not with the characteristics of that we are actually saying it has. So this is the first way of, but then we need to say, but then the mind and the consciousness, the emotions, the feelings, the thoughts, all of this is the I. So if we would, let's say, nowadays they have these very nice things called mind maps. You know what that means? It's just like something that you can kind of like create and put many like bubbles around and all of that. It's like if you take a white piece of paper and then you can look and design. And so if we're going to choose all of the 10,000 thoughts we have a day, which one we're going to choose as being the I? Or the emotions, which one is the emotion that we're going to say it is the I? Is the one when someone drives in front of us when we are late to work or to something and that anger comes up? Is that the I? Or is when we won the lottery and someone says they love us and all of that? Which one is the one? Which of these emotions, of these very, very short-term experience of emotion, of feelings, of thoughts, which one is it that we're going to choose? Because we can only choose one, and we need to pinpoint. We need to say, this is the I. What I'm trying to say with this is, I'm trying to set you up for failure because there's no such thing. There's no one thought, one thing that makes the I the I. If you think about it, this is incredible because this is exactly the opposite of how we experience our lives. And the most difficult part to understand is that it never exists and is not something when we are thinking about, like talking about emptiness, is that it's not that something existed and now stopped to exist. It never existed in the first place. This inherently permanent I and me and Kalden never existed. Kalden didn't exist a few years back. When I was born, I was not born Kalden, right? It was just a lot of fat and hair because I was already very hairy when I was born. You know, a lot of fatty and a little bit of a hair. And then that little bubble or bundle of stuff, my mom called Marcos. And then that's it. That happened. But then we can think. Then I became a monk and now I'm called Kalden. So Marcos disappeared. Marcos doesn't exist anymore. Wait a minute, I'm still here. So what happened? Is it so when I became Kalden, I killed Marcos? But the body's the same, the mind is the same. I still have memories of me being Marcos. Do you understand what I'm trying to say here? It is not that. That is not what we are. So then, if we are not this inherently existing permanent sense of self that we have, how we exist then? How do we exist? Because we have this sense, sometimes we say, we don't exist from our own side. Okay, if we don't exist from our own side, if we say emptiness, we say, things are empty of inherent existence. So, how do we exist? Because I'm still here, right? I'm still existing. I still have a body. I still have a mind. So how do I exist? Any ideas? How do I exist?
Independence on causes and conditions.
Yes, this is the perfect by the book answer. We love it. It is. It is true. But we need to understand what that means, right? So let's make an example. The way all of you, we have maybe, we have 20 people and the gompa, maybe like here, some 18, 19 people online. The way all of you are perceiving me right now, talking this blah, 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 is it the same? Is it like, because if it was, then of course, because I am incredible and extremely beautiful, you all would need to see that I am beautiful and extremely incredible, right? Which is quite the opposite of some of you experiences. Maybe you're just like, oh my God, he's never going to stop, blah, 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 and he's very bad, and. So that already tells a lot about how things exist. We can start to understand that the way things exist, they are not inherently. They are not permanent, because if they were, all of us would need to agree in the experience that we are having of the object. And as we know, especially during election times in America, we know that, we don't always agree in the way people and things are. But we're not going to talk about elections, not at the center, okay? But if you think about it, this is exactly a perfect example of dependent arising. So first we need to observe the 2 points that are actually happening here. One, it's me, Kalden, and the other, it's you, who are actually seeing Kalden. So first, me. I was born due to the kindness of my mom and dad who came together, right? And then my mom got in the womb, and then I grew, and then I was born, and then fed me and cleaned me and all of that. So all of this. And then I met Dharma, then I met Rinpoche, then I studied a little bit, then I did this, and then I don't do anything. Then I arrived here. Then to the kindness of Rebecca, Jackie, all of these people, I arrived here at the center. Okay? 35 years ago. Okay? This was the cause and condition for that to happen. And then, but all of you, you also were born and raised in different ways. Right? So all of you are a bunch, just like me, of cause and conditions coming together. You were born from your parents, you were fed, you were this, you were that. So all of these created you. And all of your experiences created habits in yourself that are now being the different type of layers or glasses, or let's say, how do you say? Yeah, layers of understanding of the way you perceive things. And we are not even talking about, because if we're going to really express the Buddhist path, we're going to say all of these also came from past lives. Because if we're going to think about it, how a 35-year-old Brazilian guy became a Tibetan Buddhist monk needs to have something to do with past lives. Right? So if you think about it, all of these causes and conditions, they create. So they created me and they created you. So they created me as the object and they created you as the subject. So the problem is that we don't see that this is just a bunch of causes and conditions coming together, and you perceiving me, you think that I am a bad monk. Then that you are right. But if you think about this, then this is coming from you. Or if I am a good monk, this is also coming from you. Of course that there is a relative existence, and that's what we need to understand. There is still a body, there is still a mind, there is still a Kalden, which is labeled by this body and this mind. But that is why it's so hard for our minds to get that the only thing that we are doing is that we are labeling things. We are labeling this body and this mind as Kalden. That's what we are doing. But because of our wrong views, we put on top of this label all of these extra things, all of these projections, all of these expectations, all of these ideas, all of these superimposed qualities or defects or flaws. Do you understand? We cannot simply see an object simply as it is. A bunch of causes and conditions coming together and being labeled by my mind. Why? Because the same way that I cannot say to you, stop understanding English now, because it's just an ingrained habit. So that's why emptiness and understanding the 2 aspects of the right view, which is things are empty of these projections of our minds because they are dependent arising. If they were with these projected, fixed, concrete ways, things could never change. That means if you would see me as a nice monk, you would never see me as a bad monk, which is the right way of seeing me. So, if you think about that, that means, oh, I can actually change opinions because things are dependent arising and not fixed. Do you understand that? Are we communicating? Does it make sense what I'm saying?
Yes.
Yes? Claudia, are we making sense? Yes? Nana, Tao, Don, yes? Good. Because this is the basis of us being free from our suffering. We need to bring emptiness into our daily lives. We need to bring this correct view of understanding things. So when a situation happens, how we can use that? Let's put it an example for us to how to use that. When we have an experience in our lives, whatever it is, just think about it, something that is difficult for you right now, or you know, some issue, or someone did something to you and you have that in your mind, or you need to understand that what is happening, it's your perception of the situation. It is coming from your view of it. This is extremely hard for us sometimes because we don't want, it's just so easy to blame the other person or to just point the finger and say, oh, that person did that to me, right? I am not saying that the person is, like, for example, I'm not saying that if someone abuses you, you are the one saying, oh, this is abuse, oh, this doesn't exist. No. There is what we call conventional abuse, right? How do we call conventional abuse? Because how do we, how do we define abuse, right? So a definition of something, it is there for us to label those causes and conditions coming together and seeing that happened. So, like we decided to call that this color of this leaf is called green. Just that. Just that. There is a plant that came from a seed, that received water, that received light, that received all of this, and has this color. And we said it is called green. Okay? The problem is that the green is not in the plant. This green is not in the plant. Do you understand that? Can you understand this? That the green is not in the plant? Because the plant was not purple or not green before I label it. Do you understand that part? The non-green of the plant was never there. It's not that suddenly the green that was not there, suddenly it appeared. No. It's that idea that actually the inherent green of the plant never existed. It's our perception of these being part of the plant that is the wrong way of thinking. Because the moment that I think that this green is part of the plant, then I start saying, I don't like green. I like blue. So I don't like this plant. So this plant needs to be out of this place. Do you understand what I'm saying? This is how the mind works. The way we label things and the way we perceive these labels creates our realities. And based on this creation, we either get attached or we want very further away from us. So it's that process. Lama Zopa, Elaine, I'm going to let you ask in a minute. Lama Zopa used to explain this process in a very beautiful way. He used to say, first there is the meeting of, let's say, our eyes and the plant. Okay? Then the plant arises in our perception, in our mind, because actually it appears in our eyes, through our eyes, then it comes to our experience, to our consciousness. And the way it appears it already appears. So we label it. So we label it already. The way it appears, it is green from its own side. It already appears because we already know green. So it already appears in our minds as green. But it doesn't appear just being labeled green. Immediately comes the idea of green coming from the side of the plant. And because we believe in this, the moment we believe in this, then we suffer. Because it starts the like or dislike of it. The labeling is not the problem. It is believing in the wrong label that is the problem. Make sense? Sort of. We're gonna get clear a little bit more. Elaine, you want to ask your question?
Just a quick question. The plant has chlorophyll in it. I mean,
Yes.
that creates color we all agree on, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm not imagining that is in the plant.
Absolutely. What we are imagining is the inherently green of the plant. The conventional green is there because, as you said, we decided as a community, as people, to call that the chlorophyll of the chlorophyll, or whatever is the name of the plant, it's green. We will label this green. Right? You understand? Because let me get something. Yeah. So these we label it as, I'm gonna call it orange, right? So we decided to label this orange. But let's say that there is a new kid just being born, maybe between 1-2 years old, and I want to really play a trick. I'm gonna be very cheeky with this kid, and I'm gonna teach them completely wrong. So I'm gonna say to him, this is green. And I'm gonna say to him, this is orange. So to this kid, when they're gonna see it, they're gonna see it as orange. They're not gonna see it as this orange. They're gonna still see the plant. You understand? But in their minds, they're gonna say, this is beautiful orange. And I'm gonna say to him, no, 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 no. This is green. Do you understand? And he's going to say, no, 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 this is orange. So it is that idea that the green is inherent to the plant, but is actually just a label. We could call anything. Do you understand? That is what we need to start understanding, that these are conventional things. And because they are conventional, they are dependent on things to exist. Right? I cannot call this a mug, even though, just like a mug, it holds the water inside. Why it's not a mug? Because there is not a handle. That was what we conventionally decided to say, that a cup, a glass and a mug, they are different because of that. But that's it. If I break this glass into pieces, I cannot find the glass. If I break this glass into pieces and I use these like materials to create a mug, I will be able to call it a mug. Do you understand that? That is it's a very good example. I just got this example in my mind. It's a very good example. So let's say we have this glass and we destroy the glass, and glass is normally sand, a lot of sand and hot air and things like that. So if we disintegrate this and comes back to be sand again, okay, then we use these to create a mug. Can I call it a mug? Or is just a glass made out? It's a glass in a costume of a mug. Do you understand? Because these has causes and conditions for it to exist, and I label it a glass. But if I try to find the inherent glass, I cannot find it. I cannot find something that will make this be a glass permanently. Because if I dissolve it and make it in a different shape, it will become a mug. Right? Makes sense now? A little bit better? Yes? So this is very important for us to start to understand that that is the reason why we suffer. Because we don't think that everything around us it's actually disintegrating right here and right now and can become something else. But we think, for example, that our phone is our phone forever and we are very attached to it. The moment it breaks, which is it's a quality of it that it has to break, and especially mine is a very good quality that it puts a lot into practice. If it breaks a lot, that means that I become angry. But I become angry because I didn't understand that this is its nature. It has the nature of being able to be broke. So this is what we say, that not understanding the way things exist, they makes us suffer because they are away from reality. They are not in accordance, I like this, in accordance with reality. And reality is that things are impermanent, that things are changing. Okay? Yes, Bob?
Where does disappointment show up in all this?
What?
Where does disappointment show up in
Disappointing
all?
is a way of anger.
Not necessarily.
Yes, necessarily. And I'm going to explain why. If we think in this way that everything that we perceive, it's a wrong view. So we superimpose qualities, or we superimpose, and the most important quality that we superimpose in things is his permanence, it's his concreteness, is his inherentness, like means inherently existing from its own side, not having to do anything with my mind. Okay? So the moment I do that, I perceive it in this way, and I immediately start to come in my mind two main wishes. Either the wish to have it to myself and be very close to me, or the wish to have it very further away from me. Okay? So the moment I create either these two minds of wanting what I want, what I'm seeing, and not wanting what I see, I am gonna suffer. Either I have it or I don't have it. If I have it, I'm gonna suffer. Why? Because the way I'm seeing it is a permanent. I'm thinking that that thing is gonna stay that way forever. And guess what? Nothing or anyone stays the same forever. So this is already going to make us suffer. Secondly, if it is something that I want very far away from me, guess what? It's going to keep coming back to me again and again in different ways, in different shapes. Why? Because I'm going to perceive things, even they are totally different, totally in a like different scenario, different life, different. I'm going to still perceive that as wrong or bad, or I don't want. So this disappointment comes when I don't get what I want. I want my pet to live forever. I want my love to love me forever. I want my career for me to be the best in my career forever. Or I want me to be having control of the way people perceive me. I want people to like me. And guess what? I can't. I can't have any of these things because they are not in accordance with reality. So disappointment comes when attachment doesn't get what it wants. And when attachment doesn't get what it wants, it's what we call anger. So disappointment is a type of angry mind. Sadness is a type of angry mind because it's not getting what we want as well. I'm sad because I didn't get what I wanted. So they are just, I'm going to use a very fancy word here, nuances. Is that a good word? Is that exist in English? Yes. Of anger. Just different shades. Let's say like this. It's like the Tibetan, the monks' robes, you know? We all have different shades. Like this is, for me, this is red, but it's not red. This is another red. This is another red. We have so many reds, you know? But they are all different kind of like ways of defining anger, or different types, let's say, of anger. It's based on that. It's based on us not having what we wanted in the first place. So that is so profound because we understand that what is actually bringing all of these, how do you say, different sufferings that we have, sadness, disappointment, anger, all of this is coming from this wrong view. So that is why the Buddha said we need to. That's why we need to understand reality. So all of the teachings of the Buddha, they are trying to bring us closer to understand reality. So we don't have disappointments because there's no expectations, because there's no superimposed qualities or ideas, or we don't want to change reality because that's what we do all the time. We are trying to change how things are. And this has nothing to do with being, how do you say, you conform with how things are. Like, oh, sometimes we see that a lot in maybe in India with the situations of castes, the caste system, because people say, oh, I'm just from a caste, so I'm just stay like this forever. It doesn't mean that at all. It means that I need to understand how things work, because if I understand how things work, I will understand that things work by causes and conditions. I will understand that if I change and the way the causes comes about, then I put different conditions, I'm going to have a different result. So actually understanding emptiness and letting go of these fixed ideas of how things should be, and we trying to change how things are, give us the freedom to actually act in a very conscious and wise way in actually bringing about changes that will bring results. Right now, we try to use the same mindset to get a different result. And we never get, and then we are always frustrated, always disappointed. Some people come to me and say, yes, but this person, they have been like that, and, but they didn't change, and I wanted them to be. And I said, they've been like that for 35 years. Do you think that they're going to change now? How about you change your mind of not expecting this person to change in this way? Then you can change. Changing the other person is much harder. And let's say it's not going to work. Why? Because you cannot change others. Because who created the problem in the first place? It's the mind that sees things in a wrong way. So it's the person who is seeing things in the wrong way that needs to change their minds to see things in the right way. And that's what we need to do with ourselves. So let's stop worrying so much about fixing everybody and everything else, and let's try to look at ourselves. That is very important. That is what the Buddha wanted. The Buddha says, First, you need to achieve enlightenment, my friend. Then you can help others to them enlighten themselves. That is what he was saying. We cannot enlighten anyone. The only way we can enlighten someone is with a lighter, you know, and then we don't need to do that. That is not the way we want to enlighten anyone. That is the reason we need to be very careful of understanding what the true emptiness, the true dependent arising means. No one can do that for us, and we cannot do this for others. Because we need to see the way we imagine, we fantasize, we project ourselves and everything else. So that's why we need to practice emptiness ourselves, right? Is that way of us looking for that really concrete, really strong sense of illusory self that we have, that projection. We need to start realizing and catching our projections. That is what we need to start doing. The way things exist is that they are free from our fantasized way. Lama Yeshe used to say that. The way things exist, they exist in a way that is not projected, is not fantasized, is not imposed, is not. Rinpoche used to say, what is the word that Rinpoche used to say? It was so beautiful. Decorated by our fantasized mind. Isn't that beautiful? Things are just how they are. And we need to stop being OCDs and trying to, you know, control and change and impose and put and so many labels. And so that is the beauty of understanding, you know, emptiness. That's why wisdom is, you know, like we have the deity of wisdom, as we say, which is just in front now over there of the throne in between Lama Yeshe and Lama Zopa. It's called Manjushri. Manjushri is the representation. You know, the Tibetans, they were very special in creating outside imagery. Yes, imagery to help us, you know, our confused minds. So, like, Manjushri is the perfect representation of what wisdom does. Why? Because it has this huge, powerful sword. Because only that can cut through what? Our confusions, projections, imposed ideas. So it cuts through and really allows reality to just be. Okay? That is what is very, very, very important for us to do. You know, that's what we called emptiness. It's empty of this ego's imagination, and which is full of concepts like expectations, anxieties, problems, projections. Ultimately, things are free from this. And the moment we are free from this, we find lasting happiness. So that's why we cannot be free if we don't understand emptiness, if we don't practice wisdom. Make sense? A bit of sense at least? Emptiness, like everything else in Buddhism, but especially emptiness, is something that we just need to think about 1 zillion, billion, trillion times every single day, every single lifetime, for many lifetimes. And then at some point, we start to understand a little bit. So if we kind of like, after these 1.5 hours, we just got a little bit of like, there, I got from Kalden that there is something called emptiness and dependent arising. That's okay. That's enough. You know? That's But that is what we need to start, because it's really going against our normal ways of being and thinking. That's why it's so strong. It's so revolutionary in a way, right? These Buddhist teachings, to think in these ways, just like, oh my God, things don't exist inherently, things don't exist concretely, things don't exist permanently, you know? Then you go really, and you start to observe the way you project things. So easy when we're having sometimes, relationships or things like that, how we are projecting things on others, right? Relationships are very good for it, whatever type of relationship it is, not necessarily just, romantic relationship, but because we can catch ourselves, or, we are doing something and then someone, and then we can check, we project our projects. Everything that we are experiencing now is our projections. So that's why emptiness cuts all of this, allow us to live purely from reality. And that's when we start to be able to really connect with pure compassion. Because compassion, by understanding reality, means that we understand how we are interdependent. We understand that we are all wanting to be happy and not suffer. So then this love and kindness and compassion easily arises. So that's why sometimes they say that it's easier to develop emptiness, the right view, than actually developing bodhicitta or compassion. Because we need a bit of wisdom to develop that. Okay. I think I did a lot of blah, blah, blah today. I didn't even give time for you guys to make questions. I'm so sorry. Very bad. You see? Now you can label bad monk. Now is a valid basis. There's a valid basis for labeling bad monk. Okay, so next week, next Sunday, unfortunately, I will be having some teachings, receiving some teachings from Ling Rinpoche, so I'm not going to be able to actually give teachings next Sunday. But I'm going to send some questions to Rebecca, and you guys going to do some discussion groups, okay? Like the ways we did last, I think was a couple of weeks ago. I can't remember when it was, when I was somewhere. So you guys can do discussion groups, which is a very valid and special way to actually learn. Because discussion groups, we can actually not only learn first how to listen to others, something that I never learned because I just talk, blah, 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 blah. But you can actually learn so much about others people, because then it helps us. How it helps us is to see emptiness, because we see that it's not as concrete. If everybody would agree with me, then what I'm thinking maybe doesn't exist the way it exists in my mind. So you start doubting. It's very good. Right? So then discussion groups are very good for that. And also we learn so much about our own ways of thinking when we actually share. Right? I always say that the beauty of therapy, one of the beauties and the positive things of therapy is that actually when you say to someone how you think, it becomes easier and clear to you when you talk to someone outside, right? So then you start to say, oh, that's how I think. That's how I am imagining. That is how I feel. Then you can start working on that. So we're going to do that next Sunday, okay? I encourage and invite you all to come, if you can come, and people online and people at the gompa, and then you guys can do that. Okay? Deal?
Yes. Yeah. And thank you so much, Venerable Kalden, for agreeing to. I know you're traveling, you have so much going on, and I want to say it's not unfortunate, it's very fortunate that you're going to see Ling Rinpoche, and I rejoice for that, and everyone does. So thank you for agreeing to do this, and I just want everyone to know that Venerable Kalden and I are talking about different ways that even after Venerable Tendrin gets back, we'll have some teachings and some meditations with Venerable Kalden so that he doesn't forget about us until he comes back next
Never,
summer.
ever.
So thank you so much. There's, no, thanks is not enough, but we appreciate
you.
it. Jim is over here trying. I don't know if you can see. Come on over, Jim.
Oh, Jim, good to see you.
So even though we won't have you next week or maybe for a few weeks, it's not goodbye. It's we'll see you soon.
Is exactly. You guys now have very bad karma because now we created a karmic connection, and I'm not gonna leave you guys in peace anymore. You guys are very in very bad karma. So now I'm gonna be there poking you every day. That's why we're gonna do it. So that's why you're not gonna get rid of me that easy. That's what it is. So now that we have created these incredible cause and conditions together, that we really created these, is so special, that we spent these 1.5 hours discussing and contemplating and, debating about how things exist, which is very special. I don't see many people doing that in our daily lives, So once we've done that, it's so special that we are able to then, what we say, dedicate, these incredible conditions and incredible effects, positive effects that we created by doing this, because we created a lot of special seeds, in our minds right now, that not only in this life but in future lives, they're gonna definitely be there to help us. Sometimes like moments of desperations, but if we think about it just for a few minutes of seconds of like, is that really that bad? Is that really how it is? Then it's the mind of what we discussed that can rise, and then it can make things like softer and like more relaxed, and slowly we go cultivating these minds, and then all of these disturbances of the minds, they start to subdue, and then the life becomes much better, peaceful and full of joy and love and kindness. It's very special. That's what we need to really aim. So that's why we dedicate all our efforts, all of what we heard, all of that we said, all of these, blah, 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 that you had to endure. So you can actually use that. So we can in the future be able to really see our minds and see reality as it is, and use that to benefit others, to help others. So that's what we want. And we dedicate that all of this has been able how this has been able, because of due to the kindness of so many people coming together, all of the people in the center, all of you, and the center to exist, because the center exists, then we can be here talking and doing blah, 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 and being together. So for the center and all of the centers, that bring about these discussions and bring about benefit to others, may they all have the necessary conditions to continue spreading these beautiful teachings. And of course, we would not even hear about these things if it was not due to the kindness of our teachers, especially His Holiness the Dalai Lama. So for his long and healthy life, continue being a beacon of light and hope and harmony and love and kindness in this world. And of course, for us, in more specific way, many of us directly or indirectly, well, actually all of us directly or indirectly, received the kindness of Lama Zopa Rinpoche and Lama Yeshe. So for Rinpoche to come back and continue guiding us, we pray for him as well to come back and help us seeing our reality. That's what Rinpoche wants to do. And for all of the miseries and the problems in the world right now, for a harmonious election in America, for all of the wars and famine and all of the diseases to completely be pacified, and all of people be really find lasting happiness and be free from suffering. So for that, we're going to do some dedication prayers to help us. So these prayers, they are also a way to remind ourselves, as we dedicated, these things, we also need to dedicate for our minds to continue wanting to achieve this state of no more suffering, this state of enlightenment. So we also dedicate for that. So let's see if Nana has the prayers. Okay. And you can do any dedications for yourselves, or something happening in your life, or you can dedicate something that people that in your life that are struggling, going through some problems. You can dedicate for them as well. Anyone in your lives, any difficulties, we dedicate for them to be completely free. It's very special that we also think about others. Due to the merits of these virtuous actions, may I quickly attain the state of a Guru Buddha and lead all living beings without exception into that enlightened state. May the supreme jewel bodhicitta that has not arisen arise and grow, and may that which has arisen not diminish, but increase more and more. Just as the brave Manjushri and Samantha Bhadra too realize things as they are, I too dedicate all these merits in the best way that I may follow their perfect example. I dedicate all these roots of virtue in the dedication praised as the best by the victorious ones and thus gone of the 3 times, so I might perform good works. I dedicate whatever virtues I have ever collected for the benefit of the teachings and of all sentient beings, and in particular for the essential teachings of perfect pure Losandrapa to shine forever. So now we go to dedicate for 246. Yes, please, Nana. Thank you, dear. Shantideva's beautiful words of dedication. May all beings everywhere plagued by sufferings of body and mind obtain a notion of happiness and joy by virtue of my merits. May no living creature suffer, commit evil, or ever fall ill. May no one be afraid or belittled with a mind weighed down by depression. May the blind see forms and the deaf hear sounds. May those whose bodies are worn with toil be restored on finding repose. May the naked find clothing, the hungry find food, may the thirsty find water and delicious drinks. May the poor find wealth, those weak with sorrow find joy, may the forlorn find hope, constant happiness and prosperity. May there be timely rains and bountiful harvest. May all medicines be effective and wholesome prayers bear fruit. May all who are sick and ill quickly be freed from their ailments. Whatever diseases there are in the world, may they never occur again. May the frightened cease to be afraid, and those bound be freed. May the powerless find power, and may people think of benefiting each other. For as long as space remains, for as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. And now we dedicate for the long life of His Holiness. In the land encircled by snow mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good, all-powerful Chenrezig, Tenzin Gyatso, please remain until samsara ends. And now we dedicate for the swift return of Lama Zopa Rinpoche, for Rinpoche to come back to us and really continue bringing us and all sentient beings to enlightenment. Peerless teacher and assembly of the children of the victorious ones, Shravakas and Pratyeka Buddhas, victorious Lozang, father and sons, along with the lineage masters, all the objects of refuge of infinite lands, please bestow the virtue and goodness of accomplishing this prayer here and now. Holding and spreading the Muni's precious and complete teachings through explanation and practice, you are the armor of patience that is never discouraged. Incomparable, venerable Guru, to you I make request. while striving single-pointedly for the sake of the victorious one's teachings, the sole gateway through which all benefit and happiness emerge, and from other living beings, you suddenly departed to peace. What a great loss! Nevertheless, through the undeceiving truth of the blessings of the oceans of the three Jews and the great ways of bodhicitta of the children of the victorious ones, may the smile of a reincarnation swiftly beam its glory for fortunate disciples. Okay, thank you very, very much. Have a wonderful Sunday.
Thank you, Venerable Kalden.
Come for the discussion next week, and we see each other very, very soon, I hope.
I hope. Me too.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Who is here? Hold on. Oh. Who is here?
Who is here? Let me check.
While you're doing that, Rebecca, thank you so much for requesting these teachings.